greeting you into the day, meaning the sun has risen above the horizon in the place that you're at. The body naturally responds to this light. We awaken and we come into this conscious space of ourselves. And I'm feeling this invitation to notice something, to create ritual with this container, which I have not been like really articulate with. And I'm noticing the importance of that and been having conversations recently with a very close, dear friend of mine who I've co facilitated some day retreats with. And we've been talking about the importance of ritual to create relaxation in the body, in the nervous system, and how this is like a very conscious choice in our mind when we're creating a space for ourselves to step into and for other people potentially to step into, like anyone who's watching this in real time with me now, or who's watching this at a later point in time and space. The the impact that that actually creates in the primal brain, and the instinctiveness of how human ritual like lives in the human body. And I'm really grateful that that was something that was taught to me in my training, and it's something that I really practice in my private coaching spaces as well as the group containers that I facilitate, which I have one here in this room tomorrow at Tantric Intimacy Practice meets Fusion Dance. It's the first of this kind where I'm doing a kind of like a combined experience with the intimacy practices plus the dance. I have a long background in dance and partner dance, and so this feels like a cool nexus of these different parts of what have been my lived experience in this body and life. But the importance of, yeah, cultivating a container so that the body mind can feel as much ease as it can. And in that place of feeling ease, that we're able to access deeper places within ourselves, the more vulnerable places that live inside each one of us that yearn to be seen. And the mm, the primary model, the primary system, that which is within we live, doesn't typically cultivate a container for us to be able to be at ease in ourselves in order to be vulnerable, both with our own experience in order to then possibly open it up to another person or place or group of people. So, um, yeah, I'm just recognizing based off of this theme that's been coming up in conversation in my life, and also the aliveness just simply of this dialogue right now. Dialogue. I know that I'm speaking kind of to myself. Hopefully, I'm feeling the energetics of who's taking this in, so it feels like an energetic dialogue. So, thank you for those of us here. Um, the the word scarcity just came to mind. It's not the word that I want to use. The very few opportunities that there are for us to relax into ourselves in order to connect. And so, um, it makes sense as I'm saying this, like, it makes sense that we have this tendency to sort of withdraw into the safety of our abode or the safety of our car, if that's the moment we're in, the safety of our office, the safety of wherever we're at, because in that place, we can actually feel some sort of ease within our own being that allows us to feel ourselves in this deeper, more vulnerable way. Whether or not that comes out in a sharing experience with another person, is another layer of this, but the the missing ingredient, there we go, of ritual and um, mm, contextual, circumstantial uh, framing or holding or infrastructure so that we can be with ourselves in this deep, true, authentic way. It's so hard to find. And and so that's like, going to the grocery store, like showing up at work, pumping your gas at the gas station, going into a doctor's office. Right now we're seeing like this phrase that's connected to a doctor or a dentist or any sort of these like medical practitioner spaces that we might find ourselves in, where there's a connected phrase that people are now looking for that's like trauma informed, which means that person is aware of the importance of cultivating safety so that there can be attunement to oneself and to one another, or attunement in a group. Yeah. So having an awareness of the importance of this for any type of relationship, professional or personal, is 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 interesting, right? It's like to bring that to a conscious state and to have some reflection on, um, ooh, how am I showing up in this dynamic with this maybe friendship conversation that is perhaps bringing in some vulnerable share or has an invitation for that? And is there, is there in that, um, a place for a person, one, to feel that they, I mean, truly have agency to connect with themselves in this deeper, vulnerable way, because that the the cultivation of the ritual space says, I honor that you as an individual can choose that for yourself, and I want you to choose that for yourself, and and this is what the ritual space does if it's done well, if it's done successfully. It says you are safe to do that. That there is a safe, welcoming environment here for you to be, ooh, like, to let that guard down, even if it's just like a small amount. But that small amount might be like a monumental, profound change from what the norm has been, which is so often what we experience in so many of our relationships, in so many of the places that we find ourselves in our moment to moment lived experience. So, so I want to honor the value of ritual, and that's the language, that's the word that I'm putting to this right now. I think we kind of understand what like ritual, it means like, oh, I'm doing something that has kind of a meaningful quality to it. There's like a meaningful energy to it. There's like a deeper, um, intentional quality to it, and that's what it is. It's simply that, and that could look in many different ways, and it could adapt to whatever that conversation or that environment is. So for tomorrow night, I have this little thing that I want to get rid of on the top of my screen. So, um, for tomorrow night, there will be a very intentional container set to support there will be 18 of us, perhaps more, decide to join between now and tomorrow evening at 6:30 Pacific time. A very intentional container set so that the access to one's deeper, vulnerable experience can be met in as much as it can be. And that's per individual, because we are all living in a different embodied experience of ourselves, moment to moment. And so creating that intentional space to validate that each person's ability to acknowledge the ability to find that agency in the self, to be able to feel that easeful nervous system relaxation, to know, like, ooh, I'm like gonna get emotional, to know that like the deeper things that want to be spoken or felt are welcome in this space. Um, because the things that I'm going to be inviting people into are, they're vulnerable, and they're vulnerable. Many of these people coming are couples, they're romantic couples, but then there are also some people showing up as singles and being paired together with a person who maybe they're just meeting for the first time. So there's like a whole level of vulnerability there. And I say that with this awareness that even in romantic relationship, it can be this stepping into a new territory that has been desired but not practiced, maybe for months, maybe for years, maybe never. And that in a way there's a different, almost deeper vulnerability there, because this is a person that you supposedly, know quite well, and yet you don't know each other, or you don't know yourself in the experience of the other, but you feel like you should because you've been together, or have felt this like deeper um like lived experience. Maybe you've been cohabitating for a long time, maybe you're married, all of these different levels of depth of connection. I feel my coffee cooling down in my hands and it feels so good, but I'm going to take a sip before it's cold. Mm. So whatever the orientation and the relating type that's happening between the people who are showing up for these practices tomorrow night, which I'm describing as tantric intimacy practices, um, that's language to say we're going to be sitting across from one another, feeling our sensations in our body, emotions in our body, perhaps thoughts flowing through us, being present with those, and creating a connection with the person across from us through eye contact, sustained eye contact, which is in and of itself, even for a minute, to look into another human's eyes without speaking is vulnerable. So that will be part of the invitation, part of the intimacy exploration. And then I'll invite them to feel mm, the movement of the breath through their body, and to use intentional focus to connect to different areas of their bodies. So lower belly, heart, and this like deep brain, you might call it third eye, um, this energy of thought and intellect, um, brain, thinking brain, but also the deeper limbic brain and the primal brain, but just being up here in the head. And then moving, connecting to some sort of sensation in the body and creating an intentional kind of like loop in to that spot in the body, and moving that energetic sensation around in whatever capacity. All of these things are um, not a right or a wrong or a good or a bad. They're simply an invitation for us to create a different connection with ourselves that we might not typically practice in our life. And the body notices this and feels this in our own nervous system energetic experience, and then that can be felt with the person that we're working with, and it can be felt in the room. Like, this is going to be a very co-created space based off of how each person is accessing that experience within themselves, which is going to be on all spectrums, because we're all different humans, and each expression of that is beautiful and perfect. Mm. One of the things I remember speaking in my 30 minutes yesterday that didn't record properly was um, how the heart is like a superhighway to the brain. It's like the information that moves, and I've heard recently how there's an awareness in the heart organ itself that has a brain like expression or a brain like functionality and experience. The heart as an energetic, I'm not an expert on these topics, so these are things that I've read from various books and various resources, which one that I also referenced yesterday was the Heart Math Institute. If anyone's familiar with that or wants to check it out, there are so many amazing resources, and this is where I first learned about heart coherence about 3 years ago, and how the heart sends out this electromagnetic frequency. 'Cause every part of our being, every atom is this electric, dynamic frequency that's emitting, transmitting. The heart has this electromagnetic pulsation frequency that expands about 8 feet around the human body. And so we've all felt like, "Oh, it felt strange in that room," or, like, I had a weird vibe, with that person." Like, these things they're scientifically shown to be real. Like, they're not just some, like, made up thing. They're really evidenced now. There's so much evidence now. And so the heart is like this pulsing force within our body, sending this super highway of information to the brain. The brain to the heart is like a rural dirt road. It's like the information from the brain to heart is so much lesser in volume. And just to bring that up as a way to introduce, which we won't stay on for long because I have to shift gears, and I just wanted to do a mini take 2 of this show for this week. Um, how we put so much emphasis in our Western culture, Western society into the thinking mind. And I've had another conversation recently with a man who's, I'm gonna guess, somewhere in the late 50s, early 60s, maybe mid 60s, I don't know, somewhere in the mid 50s to mid 60s, and how he, like many of us, were grown up to be be sort of redirected to what is our intrinsic nature as a tiny human coming into this world that I get to see so vividly with my almost 6-year-old son, that the awareness, like the emotional, instinctive self-awareness and awareness of the space and of others is so potent with my son. It's so easy for him. Like, he's such a sensitive, in his natural nature, creature to these emotional energies that are flowing through all of us and that are changing, right? There's this dynamic thing that moves and flows, and we get latched onto a thought, and then that thought creates this cascade of chemicals, and then we loop that thought and loop that thought and loop that thought, and the chemicals just keep flooding us, and I could go on and on about that. Like, there's so many things to talk about emotional maturity and how to redefine how we experience our emotions so that we can be in flow with them like we are when we come out of the womb and we're just being as a human organism. Okay, back to my point with this friend, which I can relate to, and I'm guessing that many of us can relate to, which is that we are taught to lean into and care more and prioritize more what's happening up here in our frontal lobe, our neocortex, like the chemicals from the emotional experiences and the instinctive pieces of human expression are also coming from the brain, but they're coming from different parts of the brain. And we have heavily regarded, worshipped, prioritized this thinking frontal lobe, um, the rational mind, which is essential. and needed and important and serves a real um, survival, also like needed purpose, but also like it serves its purpose, but it's been out of balance with all of these other places. And this gentleman and I, we were talking about. It's funny, I haven't used that word in a long time, gentleman. Um, it just got my attention. Um, he's a very sweet, kind man, and we've been having this beautiful themed conversation around how he immediately goes into speaking about things from his mind versus feeling from his heart. And speaking still, but speaking from here versus from here. So, I'm going to come into a place of completion here with this ritual space of this conversation. Thank you for being here and for the aspect of this space that I always want to demonstrate and lean into, which is like, ooh, the somatic practice of being with what is, the somatic practice of being with what is true. And so just pausing now in this moment, if you're taking this in now or at another time on the recording, to notice as you drop into a moment of stillness with yourself, where is there like a primary sensation in your body? Where do you feel it? So I'm going to take a moment to do that so I can share with you what I'm feeling, hoping that in my sharing to you that it invites you into that same similar inquiry with yourself. So I'm really feeling my heart beating right now. It's like really interesting. Maybe because I've been drinking a little more coffee than I typically do. I like drink 1 cup and I think I'm working on my second cup. So maybe that's like there's some stimulant running through my heart. I also, right before this, did this really awesome kind of primal hit workout. It felt so good. And I was sitting down feeling like my body was like sweating. But I think there's this other part that's like I'm exhilarated by talking about these themes. Um, they feel very energizing for me. And there's a little bit of right here. Where is that? Oh, look, it's at Yoda's third eye. Like there's a little bit of tightness in this part of my chest. It's maybe like an inch deep and underneath my skin. Maybe it's like an inch deep up to like right below this, like these ribs. Yeah. This is like where I've historically carried anxiety, which was very chronic for me for about 15 years. And I feel like as I speak to that sensation, I feel it relax. It's evidence of the power of acknowledgement of our own body's experience. The body says, thank you. And I'm saying, yes, I hear you. I notice you. I feel you. I'm here. I've got you. I'm listening to you. And the body relaxes. And sometimes in that space, there's a piece of information that flows through, and sometimes there isn't. Sometimes a piece comes later. uh, mm, I haven't gotten outside and done my morning kind of connecting to earth ritual that I have done probably 90% of the mornings of the last 3.5 years of my life. And I go outside and I look at the sky and I go out barefoot with my feet and then I touch my hands to the earth and I move my body around. I usually also pee. I like to start the day feeling this like attuned nervous system connection to the primal experience of the human organism of me, which creates a sense of belonging and safety that nature intrinsically offers to us because that's where we're truly born of. So, I'm feeling that my body wants to kind of shake this like little chest piece, like, it wants to kind of be moved and wants to make some sounds. Yeah. Ah. 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 Mm. Yeah, that feels good. Thank you for being here. Mm. Honoring you, honoring we, honoring the space, honoring our choice to show up with intention for ourselves, to invite ourselves into a deeper connection with ourselves. That is the magic. That is the gift that we get to give to ourselves. That is the gift, inherently the gift that we get to give to each other. So thank you. Mm, I appreciate you. I am grateful for you. And I am sending so much love. And I look forward to next Thursday and seeing you again. Mm, a wonderful day.